The first shout cut through the dusty afternoon like a snapped wire. People turned, trucks idled. Somewhere, a crow flapped up from a fence post. If you've ever seen a quiet place suddenly hold its breath, you know the feeling, the moment when something small is about to break loud. Stay with this story until the end, because what looks like fear at first will become something else entirely. And before we go any further, if you enjoy stories where courage hides in plain sight and truth flips the script, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss what comes next. The farm girl stood beside the feed store, fingers curled around the strap of a canvas bag, eyes lowered the way she'd learned to do a long time ago. Silence had been her armor since childhood. On this town's single main road, silence kept you safe, or so people believed. Her brother was with her, half a step behind, shoulders squared in a way that tried to be brave. He was younger, all elbows and nerves, his boots still too clean for the life they were supposed to represent. They had come for seed and fencing wire, nothing more. They had planned to leave before the sun slipped behind the hills. Plans, like fences, only work when everyone respects the line. The bullies didn't. They arrived in a lifted truck with the music turned up too loud, laughter spilling out before the doors even opened. Everyone recognized them. Sons of men who owned land and made noise about it. Boys who mistook volume for strength. They leaned against the truck, eyes scanning, and found their target the way hawks find movement. "Hey," one called, dragging the word across the gravel. "You two lost." Another laughed, sharper, meaner. The brother stiffened. The girl didn't look up. That somehow made it worse. The tallest boy stepped closer, boots crunching, invading space that wasn't offered. "Didn't hear me," he said, voice honeyed and cruel. He flicked the brim of the brother's cap with 2 fingers. The brother's jaw tightened. "Leave us alone," he said, too quiet to be heard by anyone who didn't want to listen. The bullies wanted exactly that, someone small enough to push, someone silent enough to drown. The girl felt the old instinct tug at her ribs, stay still, stay small, count breaths. It was a habit built in places far from this road, places with salt air and steel decks, where silence wasn't weakness but discipline. She let her shoulders slope, let the bag sag as if it weighed more than it did. The bullies saw what they wanted to see. They always did. A hand shoved the brother's shoulder. He stumbled, caught himself, cheeks burning. "Don't," he said louder now. The word cracked. The crowd that had gathered, 2 men by the pumps, a woman at the register, shifted, uncertain, eyes flicking away and back. The girl lifted her gaze for the first time. It wasn't defiance that showed there, not yet. It was assessment. "Farm kids think they own the road," someone jeered. Another stepped in close, too close, breath smelling of soda and bravado. The girl angled her body without anyone noticing, placing herself just slightly between her brother and the hands reaching out. It was a small movement, invisible to those who didn't know what to look for. She adjusted her footing on the gravel, feeling the ground, noting the slope, the distance to the truck, the way the sun threw shadows that could blind for a heartbeat. Her brother felt the shift and looked at her, confusion crossing his face. He knew her as the girl who woke before dawn to milk and mend, who spoke softly and laughed rarely. He did not know the rest. He did not know the mornings that began with runs before light, the hands that learned knots and pressure points, the mind trained to stay calm when chaos pressed in. He didn't know, and that was the point. "Hey," the tallest boy said, reaching again. The girl raised one hand, palm out, a universal signal that read as plea to them. To anyone else it would have been. To her it was timing. Somewhere inside her, a switch clicked, not to anger but to clarity. She measured the distance between now and what would have to happen if the line was crossed again. The road hummed. The wind carried dust. The moment stretched thin. They laughed, emboldened by their own echo. They were very sure of themselves, and that certainty, loud, careless, was about to meet something quieter, sharper, and far more prepared than any of them could imagine. The shove came quicker than the warning. A careless hand, a sharp laugh. The brother stumbling again, this time catching himself on the side of the truck. His breath left him in a sound that wasn't quite a cry, wasn't quite anger. The girl stepped fully in front of him now, head still slightly bowed, shoulders relaxed in a way that looked like fear to anyone who didn't understand posture. If you're still with this story, stay close, because the quiet moments are where the truth hides. The tallest bully grinned, mistaking her movement for surrender. "That's better," he said, leaning down to meet her lowered gaze. "Should have done that sooner." His friends chuckled behind him, feeding off the rhythm they thought they controlled. The girl smelled oil and dust and sweat. She noticed how his weight sat too far forward, how his boots weren't planted. She noticed the brother's breathing fast but steadying. Good, he was listening now. "Please," she said softly, one word, carefully chosen. It landed exactly where she needed it to, right on their egos. The tallest boy laughed again, louder, turning slightly to make sure his audience was watching. The crowd had grown. No one stepped in. They rarely do until the story changes shape. He reached out, fingers brushing her shoulder, testing. The girl flinched, just enough to sell it. Inside, her pulse slowed. This was the space she knew. Not the road, not the town, but the edge where intent becomes action. She angled her body another inch, shielding her brother's line of sight, keeping him behind her center. He whispered her name, a question. She didn't answer. She counted. "Back off," the brother said, finding his voice at last. The tallest bully's smile thinned. "Or what?" he asked, eyes never leaving the girl. He liked the idea that she might be afraid. He liked it too much. The second bully circled, trying to flank. The girl's eyes flicked quick, precise, then lowered again. She shifted her weight heel to toe, just enough to keep both in view without looking like she was watching. The wind kicked up dust. A truck honked somewhere down the road. Time compressed. The tallest boy grabbed her bag and yanked. The strap snapped free, canvas hitting the ground between them. The brother surged forward. "Hey!" The girl lifted her hand again, this time not a plea, a command. He stopped. She met his eyes for a heartbeat, and he saw something there that steadied him. Trust. "Oops," the bully said, feigning surprise. "Guess it's broken." He nudged the bag with his boot. The girl bent to pick it up, slow, deliberate. Her fingers brushed the gravel. She felt the grit, the texture, grounding herself. When she straightened, she didn't rush. She didn't glare. She simply stood. "Walk away," she said. Still quiet, still controlled. The words carried weight now, though they sounded the same. The tallest bully scoffed. "You don't get to tell me." He never finished the sentence. The girl moved. Not fast in the way movies show, but efficient, one step inside his reach. A turn of the wrist as his hand came forward again. A shift of hips. His balance broke before his brain caught up. The sound he made wasn't pain yet. It was surprise. She released him immediately. Let him stumble back. Let him feel it without understanding it. The second bully froze, grin gone. The crowd inhaled as one. "What was that?" someone whispered. The girl exhaled slowly. She placed the bag's strap over her shoulder, the tear hidden against her side. She checked her brother with a glance. He was wide-eyed, unhurt, breathing. "Good. Last warning," she said, voice unchanged. The tallest bully shook out his hand, face reddening, pride wounded more than anything else. He laughed, too loudly, trying to reclaim the moment. "You think you're tough," he said. "You think that was?" He lunged. This time, she didn't ask. She stepped, turned, and redirected his momentum into the ground. It wasn't flashy, it was clean. He hit the gravel hard enough to knock the air from his lungs. Silence fell, thick and stunned. The girl stood over him for half a second, no triumph, no cruelty, then stepped back. She raised both hands, palms open, showing she was done. Her brother stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. They didn't know it yet. None of them did. But the story had shifted, and there was no going back to the version where the quiet farm girl was just quiet. The sound that followed wasn't applause or shouting. It was the scrape of boots on gravel as people instinctively stepped back, unsure which direction the moment would explode next. The tallest bully lay on the ground, blinking, pride shattered louder than his breath. His friends stared at him, then at her, trying to reconcile the image they'd built with the reality in front of them. The brother hadn't moved. He stood frozen, heart hammering, watching his sister with a mixture of awe and disbelief. She met his eyes briefly and gave a small nod. Stay still, stay safe. It was the same look she'd given teammates in darker places, before doors opened and plans went live. The second bully recovered first, anger replacing confusion. "You're dead," he spat, stepping forward, fists clenching. The girl's posture changed, not dramatically, just enough. Her shoulders squared, chin lifted. Silence. Once her camouflage now became her warning. She didn't rush him. She didn't taunt. She waited. He swung wide, sloppy, telegraphed by rage. She slipped inside the arc, guided his arm past her center, and used his momentum against him. He stumbled, caught himself, tried again. This time she stepped back, letting him overextend, then checked him with a short, controlled movement that stopped him cold without breaking anything. He staggered, stunned, eyes searching for an answer that wasn't there. "Stop," she said. One word. Clear. Final. The crowd had changed. Phones lowered. Murmurs rose, not cheering, not condemnation, but something like respect edged with uncertainty. The woman from the register had stepped outside. The men by the pumps watched with narrowed eyes, weighing whether this was a fight or a lesson. The girl made it neither. She created space. She kept her brother behind her. She breathed. The tallest bully groaned and pushed himself up to his knees. Dirt smeared his jeans. His confidence drained out of him in real time. "You." He started, then stopped. He'd felt it now. Not pain alone, but precision. The kind that comes from training, not temper. His eyes flicked to her stance, her hands, the way she held distance. Something clicked, too late. "Who are you?" he asked, voice smaller. She didn't answer. Names weren't necessary. She scanned the road, the truck, the exits. She noted the angles. Everything was under control. Her brother finally found his voice. "We're leaving," he said, steadier than he felt. The girl nodded once. She took a step back, then another, never turning fully away. The bullies didn't follow. They didn't even try. Whatever script they'd brought with them had been torn up and thrown into the dust. As they walked, the brother's mind raced. He wanted to ask everything at once. Since when? How long? Why didn't you tell me? But he waited. He remembered the way she'd raised her hand earlier, how it had stopped him without a word. He trusted that now. They reached the edge of the lot. The lifted truck loomed, suddenly less impressive. One of the bullies muttered something that sounded like an apology, or maybe it was just surrender. The girl didn't look back. When they were halfway down the road, the brother finally spoke. You could have hurt them," he said. It wasn't accusation. It was wonder. "I didn't need to," she replied. "That's the point." He swallowed. "You're not just..." He stopped, searching. "You're not just quiet." She allowed herself a small smile, one that belonged to home and early mornings and shared chores. "Quiet isn't the same as weak," she said. It never was. The town would talk, she knew that. Stories would bend and exaggerate, strip away the discipline and leave only the spectacle. That was fine. She didn't need the truth to be loud. She needed her brother safe. She needed the road clear. As the sun dipped lower, she felt the old calm settle back into her bones. The part of her that had learned to move through danger without carrying it forward loosened its grip. This place, fields and fences and dust, was different from the world that trained her, but the rules were the same. Protect what matters. De-escalate when you can. Finish only if you must. Behind them, the bullies climbed into their truck without bravado. The engine started. The music stayed off. Ahead, the road opened. And with every step, the quiet farm girl walked exactly as she always had, steady, prepared, and far more capable than anyone who judged her silence had ever imagined. By the time they reached the turnoff to the farm, the adrenaline had faded into something softer. Relief, threaded with understanding. The brother finally broke the silence with a shaky laugh that surprised even him. "You know," he said, "I thought today would just be about wire and seed." She smiled, eyes on the road ahead. "It still was," she replied, "just more memorable." The land opened around them, fields rolling toward the horizon, fences catching the late light. This was where her breath slowed naturally, where the world made sense again. At the farmhouse, their mother looked up from the porch, sensing the shift before seeing it. She took in the torn strap, the dust on their boots, the way her daughter stood, relaxed but alert. No questions yet. There would be time for those. Inside, the brother finally asked the one that mattered. How long? The girl set the bag down, careful, like it still carried something fragile. A few years, she said. Training before that. She didn't use titles. She didn't need to. But the truth sat heavy and solid between them. He shook his head slowly, a grin breaking through. So when you told me to stay behind you, you stayed, she finished. That was the right call. Pride warmed his chest. Not because she'd fought, but because she'd trusted him with her plan. That mattered. Word traveled fast, as it always does in small towns. By evening, messages buzzed, half-formed rumors circling the real story. She let them. She fixed the strap on her bag, fed the animals, set water out as the sky darkened. Normalcy isn't denial, she knew. It's choice. Later, a neighbor stopped by, awkward but sincere. Heard what happened, he said. You okay? She nodded. We are. He lingered, then added, good on you. He meant more than he said. The next morning, the feed store felt different, not safer, clearer. Eyes met hers and didn't slide away. The men by the pumps nodded. The woman at the register smiled. No one tested the line again. Respect had found its footing. Her brother watched it all with new eyes. You're still you, he said quietly as they loaded the truck. Jest more. She laughed, light and real. So are you. That night, under a sky crowded with stars, she ran the fence line and thought about the road. She thought about silence and when to break it. Strength, she decided, is knowing which one the moment requires. The farm slept. The town settled. Life went on, wiser maybe for having met a truth it didn't expect. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that the quietest person in the room may be the most prepared, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life, where courage isn't loud, but it's unmistakable when it stands up.